month is Sickle Cell Awareness Month. So just wanted to use the opportunity to just discuss about sickle cell anemia, with your experience with sickle cell, like growing up with sickle cell, and just like living day to day with it, and so some misconceptions that people have, like especially in places like Nigeria and even like in the UK and all those other places. We're just going to have general discussions around that. So to start with, like what is sickle cell anemia?
It's a blood disorder which affects your red blood cells.
Yeah.
So the average person's cell is a circle, but with us sicklers, it's sickle. That's why they call it sickle cell.
Yeah.
It's in a sickled shape, so like a crescent moon, basically. And because of that, because of how the sickle shape, because of sickle shaped red blood cells, the flow of blood gets there's places that will get stuck or a restriction of flow because it's not well shaped. And when the restriction of blood does happen, you get pain and other complications from it.
Okay.
Really, most pains are called crisis.
Yeah.
There's a few things, or let's say a few people who have higher hemoglobin cells, and those with higher ones have less pain.
Okay.
So the sicklers who do have sickle cell, but they don't get as much pain as people with lower hemoglobin counts.
So what about like the oxygen, because all that transferring of oxygen and stuff like that, how does that affect how oxygen is carried around your body?
The oxygen, because oxygen and fluids, you need oxygen and fluids because it helps with the blood flow to get better. So the more you drink and the more you have filtered airflow, blood will flow easily, and you wouldn't. There will be places that wouldn't get trapped.
Okay,
blood flow.
So you were talking about crisis. First things first. Like the first thing that I even want to discuss is like, because I've known you for a very long time. I think how many? Almost over 20 years or about something like that.
It's about 25 years here.
Yeah.
We're old.
No expose us on life. But yeah, so like I think you are the first person that I met, like that I first found out about what sickle cell anemia is. And since I've known you, like I've known like you since when we were in primary school and even secondary school, you tend to have sometimes like crisis. Sometimes like on Monday, Tuesday you go to school, Wednesday you're not in school, and then I go and check, and then they've admitted you. Yeah. So like it is not. I don't know how to ask the question, but like, what was that like? Like, how did it affect you, like then? And how does it affect you now in terms of just like your day to day?
Every crisis has its own complications. So the more crisis you get, the higher the complications. So growing up, really, it was more more of pain. Basically, wherever the crisis wants to start. So it could be on your back, your hands, your legs, anywhere really.
Yeah.
And because of how frequent my crisis was, there will be times that I will have maybe 2 crises in a month, and I'll probably miss like almost half a month of school.
Yeah.
So during those times, really, it was difficult.
Yeah.
Because the sickle pain is not taken it's taken seriously, but not so what's the word I can use?
Like people don't put much emphasis on it, like on caring for sickle cell anemia. That's what you mean?
Yeah.
Considering it as something that is important or significant enough for people to care about. Basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, okay, for example, when you're here, if you have a crisis and you get admitted,
yeah,
really, you'll be put in a ward that has cancer people. Yeah, because our treatment is the same. So because
things like chemotherapy.
Not chemotherapy, but in terms of pain.
Oh, okay.
In terms of pain, so cancer, it's quite similar. So if it's that similar, why doesn't sickle cell have much awareness and improvements on our research and other things? Because really, since we're put with cancer people, that means it's serious. It's really serious.
But the thing is, like, based on your experience, because fortunately for you, you've had, I guess I would say, the privilege of experiencing like both sides of like the healthcare system, I guess, in terms of like Nigerian healthcare system and the healthcare system in the UK. I know that the healthcare system in Nigeria used to be very, very good. I don't know, like, but then at some point in time, it kind of just went downhill. So, like, based on your experience, like going through hospitals and all these crises, and going through it in Nigeria and going through it in the UK, what would you say the difference is, or if there's like, is it the same thing basically, like you said, in terms of how people care for people with sickle cell anemia?
Well, okay, in Nigeria, it's more of when you have a crisis or you're admitted, it's more that you should treat the infection or whatever underlying.
That's in Nigeria?
Yeah, in Nigeria.
Okay.
So if, for example, you had malaria or typhoid or whatever that caused the crisis, they'll treat that before they treat the pain. But in the UK, they'll treat the pain before they treat like the infection or something.
Okay, and
the infection or the malaria or whatever.
So is there like an advantage to doing one over the other?
Yeah, the advantage is the UK.
Treating the pain first.
Treating the pain first before the infection.
So basically, what I'm trying to understand now, is that you talk about crisis. So how crisis happens is it that your immune system is compromised, so you are more susceptible to falling sick. So it's not like the sickle cell anemia itself is like the sickness, but it is what it's just like maybe what would I even say? Yeah, like it's like it doesn't it on its own. It wouldn't cause any. It is not a sickness, but it compromises your system in a way that causes sickness. Oh?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means, from my understanding, maybe I might be wrong, but that means that if you are in developing countries where there's a lot of issues with like mosquitoes, malaria, typhoid, and stuff like that, you are more likely to have crisis than in the country where there's less of those things. So it doesn't have an effect.
Really? Yeah, it doesn't have an effect because let's say 2 years ago, for example, whenever I was so if you're back in Nigeria, really anything can trigger a crisis because our immune system is compromised. So I would probably fall sick maybe 5 times a year. But if I'm here, I would probably fall sick 3 times a year. I wouldn't say it's because of I wouldn't say it's the environment, but there's different things that can affect what triggers a crisis and what makes your immune system weaker. So if dehydration is the main thing. If you're not drinking enough, the flow of blood wouldn't be so. The flow of blood would not be.
It wouldn't be as effective.
It would not be freely. Yeah, it wouldn't be freely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because of that, dehydration, weather change. So, and there's minor little things that could trigger a crisis. Okay, let's say you're going on, let's say you're traveling from Kaduna to Abuja.
Yeah.
You know how the roads are a little bit bumpy.
Now they are not even just bumpy now. A roller coaster. Yeah.
Exactly. So that little bump, that up and down.
Yeah.
It can affect your back. So because of that, you can fall sick. Really, there's a lot of things that can trigger a crisis. It doesn't necessarily mean that here it's better than back home.
But carry on. Yeah, so you were talking about how like bumpy roads can affect your back.
Yeah, so because it can affect your back. Also, there's a lot of things that really can trigger a crisis.
Yeah.
It's not that London is better than Nigeria, or Nigeria is better than London. So, really, anything can trigger a crisis.
Cold weather, hot weather, bumpy roads, malaria, typhoid, anything.
Anything. Train rides, cold showers, hot showers, anything.
So how good the healthcare system is doesn't really have that much of impact in terms of what the difference is that after it happens, maybe if where there's a good hospital, they would be able to manage the crisis better. That's basically it. But even if you live in a utopia, like just one random minor thing can trigger it.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let's go back to like the history of like sickle cell. I don't have any stats with me, so I don't want to quote anything, that is not factual. But in my opinion, I feel like in developing countries, again, because of lack of education and all those type of things, people tend to have more sickle cell because people don't know about genotype as much. Now people are starting to know more about it. So like in Nigeria, most people, especially in rural areas, they wouldn't know that AS and AS are very likely to have like SS. So do you feel like because of that, like there's more people with sickle cell in places like Nigeria than in some parts abroad or some other countries that are more developed?
It's the education, making people know knowing like the genotype or what sickle cell anemia is. Like really, because of raising awareness back home, there's a reduction of people with sickle cell. People born with sickle cell because of the genotype testing and the information that is being passed down to people from the city or to the village or whatever. So really there is a reduction of people born with sickle cell. But the thing is, with sickle cell treatments and sickle cell awareness, knowing the genotype doesn't really help the person with sickle cell. So it's
more for like
it's more of a prevention. Than
because I think for things like sickle cell,
it's more of a prevention than actually helping people who have sickle cell.
So like for sickle cell, it's quite it is a very, how would I say, difficult subject to discuss because this is, like you said, the sickle cell awareness is about helping to prevent people in the future from having sickle cell anemia. But all the people that are presently they presently have sickle cell anemia, they already have it, and like all the awareness is not really going to change that fact. So how do you navigate around that, especially when you're raising awareness, to be more considerate of people with sickle cell, like their feelings and stuff like that? Because if you are talking as if sickle cell is some form of disease or something like that, then people who already have it, it is not like something they just woke up and said, oh, I want to have sickle cell, then how do you navigate around that, like with more you understand what I'm saying? So how do you navigate that with more compassion as you are trying to prevent more people in the future from having sickle cell anemia? But how do you make sure you're more considerate of people that have it? So there's that. So like I remember one time, maybe a couple of years ago, like you said, we were very old. We spoke about something about stem cell research, and where that was going, whether it would be used to cure the anemia. I don't know much about it. So like how far with that? How much progress have they made, and is it possible?
Yeah, they've made progress. The thing is that finding a match is quite difficult. And really, you have a short window to do it.
Short window in what context?
So you have to do it in terms of people. You need to be young.
How young?
So
young is a spectrum.
The person with sickle cell.
Yeah, no. I mean, how young? Like
young.
Teenager,
young,
early 20s. 15 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 15 years, if I'm not mistaken. So, because of that, yeah, there's people who have had a good result to it, and they have less crisis. Not that they have less crisis; they don't have really much. They don't have much sickle-related illnesses. So let's say they do it on a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Because of his past complications. So if he has something like AVN, which is avascular necrosis, I'll explain that. And he gets the bone marrow transplant.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have much sickle cell related problems, but the AVN, or the avascular necrosis, because it has started at a younger age, it would progress due to the lack of rewind. It would brain fart.
Yeah, don't worry. It happens to all of us.
I said. Yeah. Yeah, because of the
AV.
Jesus.
AV.
The AVN.
Yeah, and you said that it will progress because of
AVN. That's what it will progress because it has happened before. You had
transplant.
The bone marrow transplant. Really, all the research of the cells. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? All the research of the stem cells have to be at a younger age, and it has to be with the right donor.
Yeah.
If it's not with the right donor, it wouldn't. Like, if you don't have the right person and the right match, it wouldn't work.
So, in essence, what I'm getting from everything you've said is that 9 times out of 10, you just have to live through it.
Yeah.
And there's no, I know that, there's a lot of medication you take just to, how would I say, medication day for the sickle cell anemia. But how what extra precautions do you take? How do you make sure that you avoid having as much crisis as possible? Because from what you've said earlier, it seems like it has a mind of its own, the thing that you least expect would cause a crisis but what kind of extra precautions do you have to take as someone with sickle cell anemia as opposed to someone who doesn't have sickle cell anemia?
Really, rest, the most important thing is rest.
Yeah.
And being rest and having lots of fluids.
Yeah.
Trying not to be stressed or letting someone annoy you to the point of you being so angry that you fall sick.
Now,
because it does happen.
Okay, now.
Yeah. And then taking the medications, which really every day you're supposed to take your antibiotics, folic acid, and hydroxyurea, which is a medication which reduces the amount of crisis you might have. Did you get that?
No, it stopped at folic acid.
Yeah. Okay. Folic acid, penicillin, and your malaria tablet, which is Paladrine.
Yeah.
And if you're on hydroxyurea or hydroxycarbamide, you have to be taking it, and you have to be taking it almost every day, or how the doctor has prescribed it for you to take it, because everybody's body is different.
Yeah.
So some people would take 2 a day or 1 a day.
Yeah.
And really it depends on how your body and your blood reacts to the medication.